Hi, everyone, and welcome back to Shmindle Shmumlimited, the podcast for reviews, rants, and ramblings about books from our favorite way to get books, the Kindle Unlimited universe. I'm one of your hosts, Amity.
And I'm Lauren.
And I'm Steph. And this week we read The Reason I Married Him by Meghan Quinn, which is part of the Almond Bay series. It's book number 2. But before we get into the book, what is everybody reading and how was your week?
Well, since we last recorded, I took my trip to Ireland. And so inspired by that, I downloaded a book called The Irish Key by Daisy O'Shea. And I'm going to be honest, I began it on the airplane and I've kind of just let it sit since. It wasn't super captivating from the beginning, but I'm going to give it another shot before I move on to anything else. But that's what I've sort of been reading. It's been difficult, like with the jet lag, like start to read, fall asleep. So we'll get there. What about you guys?
I just finished Love Unwritten by Lauren Asher, book number 2 in the Lakefront Billionaires.
Oh, how was that?
It was good.
Okay.
Was it better? Like than the first one?
Yes, different. I think Nico, the little boy, kind of helped the story a
Okay.
lot.
Oh, yeah. I forgot it was like the angry.
It was Rafa and his son and the nanny.
And the nanny.
Yeah.
Yes.
So it progressed slower than the first book.
Oh, okay. Oh, okay.
You know what I mean?
Was he hard to like?
No.
Okay, that's good.
No, he was not. You were just like, stop being a jackass. Like,
Okay.
Get your head out of your ass. But no, the things made sense why he is the way that he is.
So I was in Maine for a week. I just did some hiking and hung out at some watering holes. But while I was doing all that, I read the Off-Campus series by Elle Kennedy, which is really cool because it's 5 books. And then the last book, so like it's 4 hockey players. And then the last book is like called The Legacy. So it's like little mini things of them in the future.
Nice.
So that was also really fun.
Because The Deal is the first one?
Yes.
Okay. Did you have to read the one with The Deal, their daughter?
So I read the one with the daughter after too. And I guess there's also another series too. So there's 3 series, but they're all like connected.
Okay.
So I read the Graham Effect. Yes. And then I read her friend's story too, the Dixon Rules.
I haven't read that one.
Okay. So those are all
the
really,
Graham
really
Effect
good.
recently.
Okay.
I might have talked about it on a podcast actually.
The Graham Effect?
I think so.
Yeah.
Okay. Which I loved the series. I think my next step is to read the 3rd sub-series, but I read the series in the wrong order. It's supposed to be like the Off-Campus, the Brower, Off-Campus, then the Brower series, and then the Campus Diaries.
Did you read the entire series in Maine?
Yes.
Nice job.
Yeah, because we would hike in the morning and then we would hang out at a watering hole. So I would just read while I was. Plus, we got stuck in the Baltimore airport for 8+ hours, and so that was a great time to just read books.
There you go.
So. But, okay, we're going to get into The Reason I Married Him, which takes place in a small town called Almond Bay.
Almond Bay sounds so cute.
Almond. I like it.
Almond.
I couldn't quite figure out where it was, like which state, until I think the very end of the book. And I'm guessing it's like Northern California area.
Yeah, because they go into a small town, which is mountains, and this was like a beach town.
Yes.
But they flew there.
They did fly there, but it was in California. So I couldn't quite.
Well, California's big, like.
Yeah.
True. Very true.
Like if you think about Florida, we could fly to Jacksonville.
Oh yeah.
So
a long time to drive there.
Yeah. So we start with the book, and I'm gonna let Amity take over, but the beginning of this book aggravated me in so many ways.
Well, the text of I hate Wyatt. Am I gonna like him later?
I literally texted. I was like two pages in, maybe, and I was like, this character is already aggravating me.
That's so funny. So he does start off definitely like whiny
As an
Wyatt.
author, he would have been very proud that he made you feel something.
Yes, exactly.
So Wyatt is our male main character, and we start with his perspective, and he's staying at his best friend Laurel's house, right after, and I don't know how right because he'd been there and has gotten
It was a
right.
full 6 weeks later.
Ew.
Yeah, he spent
Yeah.
3 weeks at his house and then 3 weeks at hers.
Okay.
And like
So
she didn't like force him to shower because he smelled so terrible.
Yeah.
yeah, so we're meeting Wyatt, and he's not in a great place nor in a great smell. And his bestie Laurel is making him like shower and get up, and he has to sort of start his life again. But he was bummed because his fiance Cadence left him the night before his wedding, just broke the news to him. I don't want to be with you. And she, as he talks about her at the beginning of the book, he talks about her in not a way that like his heart was super upset about the loss of her, but more like the loss of what he had planned and plotted.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because she sort of like he doesn't talk about her as anything more than like she was hot. Like it started off almost like a hookup that like, well, if you're continuing to come by, let's see where this
Fine.
goes.
And he
Um,
wasn't even a big fan. So the story goes they met at a coffee shop. She runs a coffee business where she sells her coffee.
Crappy
And he
coffee.
literally
That's not what it was
like,
called, but it should have been called
yeah,
Clearwater coffee.
yes. And he like takes a sip of her coffee and spits it out.
Worst coffee ever.
And then like their entire relationship, he's never drinking coffee again.
And
Yeah, he's
says
just a
like,
tea guy at that point.
because
Because he doesn't want to break the news to her that her coffee is terrible.
oh,
Good
poor
relationships are built on such honesty.
thing. Yep.
Anyways, so obviously they're not super close anyways, but she breaks up with him the night before their wedding, and so he's devastated and spends far too long without showering and on his best friend's couch. And so one of the things that was upsetting to him is that he has this awful cousin named Wallace, which is just a great name for like a guy you're supposed to hate. But
Mhm.
Wallace, who sucks, wasn't super close with their shared grandfather, and their shared grandfather had a cabin where um where Wyatt had some great, great memories. And the grandfather, we learn later why it was so specific, but the grandfather's will did not give the cabin to anyone specifically. The grandfather's will gave it to the grandchild that gets married first. And so Wyatt thought that would for sure be him because he literally got as far as the day before his wedding.
Yeah.
But then Cadence broke that off, and Wallace has a girlfriend, like is closer to getting
Yes.
married.
Or fiance.
Fiance.
Then they
Okay.
get engaged and send a picture of
Oh,
the
yeah.
ring to Wyatt.
And they
Yeah.
have to be married for a whole year
Do they
for
have
the
to
cabin.
be married
I don't
for a
think they
year,
have
or
to
was
be.
that
It
just
just
like
has-
that's as long as it would take to get the paperwork done, so it's mine?
Okay. I was under the impression it had to be
I
a
think they
year.
just decided that a
A
year
year.
was
Good amount of purgatory.
yeah.
So Laurel, um, the other thing is that one of Wyatt's brother has passed away. We learn also very quickly. And his brother's wife had also passed away. And in their collective will, he owns half of the farm that his brother and sister-in-law had owned. And the other half of the farm is owned by our female main character, Aubrey. And Laurel is like, hey, what if you just do like a little tradesies? Here, you have half a farm you have no interest in, and she's female and might marry you. And Wyatt, who is an author by trade, I think loves the idea of like a good fake trope and actually
Yeah.
tries it out. And he was, for some reason, inspired by Laurel's crazy idea and thinks, yes, absolutely. So he makes a plan to go to Almond Bay, where the farm is, and petition Aubrey to be his fake wife for about a year to beat Wallace to the punch and getting married. And they come up with this plan, and then he heads out to Almond Bay to go rally the troops. And although Wyatt was kind of whiny when he was in his like depressed moment, when he puts together that plan, I loved it so much. Like I felt like Steph was annoyed with him, but I was like, yes, absolutely. He puts together this phenomenal plan. Like, all right, so this is a small town. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go just be the best person in the whole world. I'm going to be so kind to all the old ladies, like very much like could run for mayor, like kissing babies, shaking hands, giving out compliments to everybody. So he just had the very best like reputation within days, because like that's how small towns work. And goes and so meets again, reconnects with Aubrey and the rest of the family. So then we meet Aubrey, and he arrives at the farm without telling anybody he's coming, which throws, I think, kind of everybody off. Because Aubrey is
Yeah,
not the
seriously.
only one at the farm. Um, Wyatt's brother and sister-in-law had a daughter who was one of my favorite characters. Mackenzie is her full name, but she goes by Mac a lot. And Mac lives in the main farmhouse with her uncle Ryland. And so Ryland is there. And he also, if I remember correctly, happened upon sort of like family dinner, because the other sister of the sister-in-law and Aubrey and Ryland, Hattie was also there
Yes.
Yes.
And
as
Hayes.
well.
And Hayes.
The
And
boyfriend.
Hayes, who is Hattie's boyfriend and also a famous singer.
Yes.
Yeah.
And their story is book number 1 in the series.
Yes, their story was book number 1 in this series, and it was called The Way I Hate Him. I might have read that at some point too, but I don't remember specifically. Um, But they're all there at like family dinner, which just works out so nicely for Wyatt's plan of reconnecting with as many people as possible. And they're all a little like sort of guarded, but also like it's good to see family because you lost
Yeah.
family, even though this is kind of like weird foundish family. They are all aware of the fact that Wyatt has this stake to the farm, and that
It's
you know,
welcoming. Aubrey is openly hostile, which
Yeah.
I absolutely love. But in her defense, she did just find out that her ex-boyfriend and ex-best friend and are married,
And
expecting a
are
baby.
expecting a baby. And they both
And-
hated small towns and
Yes.
told
Yes.
her that they would never go back.
hmm And I don't know why they would be friends at all. Like Amanda was awful.
Oh my
Yes.
gosh.
I couldn't believe people like when we get to her part, but like she said some things like I've never even heard a human say.
Right?
Some horrific things. And I really thought we'd get to why, like something would have happened. Like we'd understand more about why Amanda sucked so bad. Or we'd find out that
Yeah.
like something that Matt in particular may have done, but nothing. Amanda just sucked. And like in my mind, I was like, is Matt is Matt abusive? And Amanda's jealous, but now she's pregnant and trapped, and so that's why she's so mean. Is Amanda's super mean, and Matt is just like trapped because Amanda's pregnant. And but then why was Aubrey so untrusting of men and everything? Like, was Matt just not a good guy, or was it just the fact that at some point in his life he didn't want to live in a small town?
And Aubrey was like very abused by her father too.
Oh my gosh, that was so hard to read some of the horrific things, like behaviors of the father between what he said and you hear that like how you talk to your kids is how they'll talk to themselves. Like,
Yeah.
and she just totally internalized some of the horrific things that were said to her as a child, and very, very untrusting of people, but especially,
Yeah.
and so has really cornered herself off. Just, I just work and I do stuff and I don't have feelings and I don't have fun and I don't have friends and I just make the farm be a successful farm and that's what I do. And that's kind of Aubrey's model. And she is having some trouble with the farm
Yes.
financially.
Financial.
She's like, our crop is up, our visitors are up, our everything is up, because it's not just the farm, it's the store as well. And
Mhm.
I found this whole business very sort of confusing because like they grow potatoes, but they have almond things.
I was so confused.
I did not understand the business at all.
I'm
And they
glad I
use the
wasn't.
potatoes for vodka,
Yeah. But
but then
then
they have
where's
too
the
many
almonds?
potatoes.
Yeah. And then there's honey. And I was like, you got your hands in too many pots, but okay.
And why it's good ideas were to add more pots.
The
Right?
I,
chicken coop.
the chicken coop, like I felt like it was already in progress before they got there. But then Echo was like, "What if we add bees?" Or maybe they had already added the bees.
They already had bees through Echo.
Yeah. But
Okay,
Yeah.
Wyatt wanted to close down some potato fields and add cows, or
so
like
they could get
lease the land
milk
to
and
nearby.
butter.
Yeah, so they can do almond butter and almond milk. No, almond milk's not right.
It's clear none of us have a degree in agriculture.
Yeah.
Right?
Because
Or know
I
anything
guess
about running a farm.
they were making too much
Because
potatoes
they had excess.
for their vodka almond business. I actually don't. Did they make anything with almond, or maybe because it was in Albin Bay
Yes.
that the store
They
was?
got their almonds from another farm, I think.
But they supplied that farm with potatoes. Like they had so many potatoes that
And all like
every
the
restaurant they
restaurants and
went to.
stuff, but they still had so
Yeah.
many potatoes. Potatoes, are they easy to
I mean,
I don't know.
I don't know.
grow?
Never lived in Idaho, so
Also, I've never heard of potatoes growing near the ocean.
yeah. Again, I don't know.
Well, like Washington State. I feel like I've been to Five Guys, and when they're like, "Where are
Oh,
your
hide
potatoes
potatoes
from
that says
today?"
these are
They've
from
been from
Washington.
Washington State.
But
I'll
Washington
say yes.
State has like only like one portion of the ocean. Like a majority of it is like dark forest
Yeah, true.
and
It'll have
mountains.
yeah.
Well, that tiny bit with the ocean has a small town called Almond Bay that the soil is just perfect for growing so many potatoes
It's
and
just not
almonds
full.
and cows.
The spuds grow beautifully.
Yeah. There we go.
And
All right.
anyways, and that's why they had to fly to California later. See?
There we
There's
go.
our tangent.
Anyways, so they have this dinner. It goes fine, actually. I'm like very impressed with how open the rest of the family is to show up Wyatt and blah, blah, blah. So they have a great time. And then Wyatt kind of leaves sort of at the same time as Aubrey and starts to plant some seeds, if you will, of just being charming and being a good guy. And he, goes back to the inn where, of course, he's like become besties with the innkeeper and everything. And he shows up the next morning because he's like, I'm here to help. And so he really does come back to help.
And
And
he brings
so,
her favorite muffins.
yes, he's a good listener. So this was all part of his plan. So he like articulated this plan and everything to just be this really great guy. And then he also, with his plan, starts being closer, like proximity wise, to Aubrey. And, they kind of go on with this, like, no, friendship is not the right word. But where she's just like, fine, if you're
It's
gonna be
kind
here,
of
you're gonna be
weird.
It was
here.
like lovers to haters.
Yes.
Or hater to lover.
He's just trying
Yeah,
to
it was
work.
reverse grumpy sunshine, which he talked about, which I thought was so funny because that
Yeah.
was like definitely the trope. But anyways, so she was super grumpy. But they eventually he gets it takes like the calculated risk of like, look, she's not coming around to like be my best friend. So he can sense her frustration and nerves and everything about the farm. So gives he kind of drops his plan. And with this a quote that he keeps saying, your hand for my land, and lays out the thought of the year and the cabin that he wants from Wallace and what it would do. And she was like, absolutely not. And then they run into that trash girl, Amanda, and Matt, her ex. So Amanda's the ex BFF, and Matt is just an ex boyfriend. And Amanda is atrocious. Like she just, like we
Yeah.
talked about, she says some of the meanest things. Like,
Appalling.
and she
Wyatt,
wasn't
like
as
this,
mean this like first run in, but she definitely rubs in the face like, oh, look at how great things are. I'm with this guy. I know you loved him, but like now he's my husband, and like we're so pregnant, and like life is phenomenal. And now we're just back here in this small town that I know you love, and we're just thinking it's great to raise a family. I don't know what you're doing here because you're not raising a family.
and we
And
heard you haven't been with anybody. And it's funny because Wyatt literally calls her Regina George, like the
yeah,
first meeting.
right, but that's like, it was perfect. It was perfect. And so Wyatt, who's already been doing this, like getting close, kind of being nearby, sort of hears this person being horrific and walks up to Aubrey just in time for her to be like, what? I'm not here alone. I'm here with my boyfriend. It's this guy, of course. And
Wyatt's
Wyatt,
a famous author. So like a
yes.
lot of people know, everybody knows who he is. Like all the old ladies, like he has all this
Like, what an
money.
educated town. They all read.
Yeah, exactly. Also, this is the banter between Aubrey and Wyatt is when I started liking him again.
It was so
Yes,
good.
it was so good. He was so funny at this part.
He
So
was so
like
funny. I
he was
also
the one
loved
I
his
liked was like,
patience.
oof, I like this character.
Yes.
I
So
told you to get better.
Yeah, it was just that first one where he's laying on the couch for like 6 weeks where I'm like, oh my God, I hope this is
What about this guy?
totally died of a character.
I love that what he was like, all right, time to get better. Um,
Yeah.
and
He
just like,
was so funny. Like I can't even remember this. I was cracking up. So I'm like reading this book today and TJ's working and I'm like just cracking up at all the things he was saying because he was so ridiculous. It was so funny.
they were so funny together. I loved
But
it.
also, like, it wasn't cringy.
No,
Which
no,
I was very appreciative that there was no cringe.
No, it was maybe more corny,
Yes.
but I love a good corny joke.
It was like corny funny, you
Yes.
know?
He's
Yeah.
a good.
So Aubrey, she's like, well, I guess if I've told this one person that we're dating who's in Wyatt's defense, like he's like, oh no, they're gonna talk. And she's like, oh man, they are gonna talk. I guess we can just get married now because two people might tell some other people. And so they agree to it. Wyatt's like, great, I'm gonna call my lawyer, like we can do all this. Um, and it does get out, and it gets out fast and hard. And Aubrey does not beat the news to her siblings. And so they're a little miffed, understandably so, because it feels a little bit like she's been lying because she's dating this guy that she very much visually hated 12 seconds ago. And she's like, oh, we were just pretending. We've actually been in touch for quite a while. And we just thought it
Wyatt
was
has a whole story. Yeah.
I'm just saying, I would not be able to come up with that story.
Yeah,
off the
Wyatt
top of
was
my
like
head.
pretty quick with the story. He knew exactly what he was going to say. Like, I had contacted her a while ago. We had met up, and then I couldn't stop thinking about her. So we were texting and we FaceTimed and all this stuff.
to imagine on like
No one
whatever
was engaged.
like on whatever flight or drive like Wyatt took from wherever Laurel's house was to Almond Bay, I'm sure he was kind of storyboarding a lot of these things in his head.
Yeah. He's also an author, so like his stories were like so quick.
I think it
Yes.
was fun to see, like, oh, is this what the inside of an author's brain is like? I thought that was
I
fun.
don't know. I'll ask Meghan Quinn. I'll message her on Instagram and be like,
There
hey,
you
is
go.
Wyatt's brain like your brain? Or is it different? Anyways, so the siblings are upset, and Aubrey's like, man, I like, and Wyatt can kind of see like crap. Like these are real people with a real family, and we've got to sell it, and I don't know. And so Wyatt was, I was very impressed with how respectful he was and how many different opportunities to like, we could just not do this if you wanted. And then stubborn Aubrey was like, no, we're doing it. I said yes once. So like obviously we should definitely do this big giant contract thing.
And
But
he offers to like just give her the land. She's like, no, you're not giving it to me.
right,
Either
I have
you
to earn
pay
it
for
because
it
I'm
and buy it.
worthless.
Yes, I need to earn the land.
I need to earn everything. I'm worth nothing. No one should even want to be near me. And Wyatt sees that she feels awful about herself. And so he is also like a horny guy and starts like, well, if we're gonna be fake dating, then we've obviously gotta be near each other. And I've gotta like hug you and, have you sit on my lap and stuff like that. And then they, in the span of like the time span was very fast, slow, I felt like. Because like, so 5 days later, he moves into her house and
Yes.
Yeah.
They do go on a date.
they do. They go on a really cute date, actually. And
And
he is,
she like makes that comment that like they've talked more than she got to know him more that date than she has any other person.
yes. Yeah,
So like they're
she
very
finds
open.
herself, I think just because he's easy to talk to and he's very persistent in his question asking and even like how he asks questions and stuff like that, that she starts to open up to him just to make him be quiet, quite frankly.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
But in a way that, helps him get to know her and helps her practice telling people things that matter about herself, which
Yeah.
is not something that she's really done. And then he also is making a big effort. He comes to the farm and he like really does help out. He sees things that need to be done and just does them. And he's just like a nice guy. Like
Yeah.
at no point, like other than like making a stupid decision about not leading with I was about to get married and then I didn't and that sucked. I like he was just such a stand-up character. I know this is not the part of the podcast where we talk about the characters, but like, I feel like every time I like thought about Wyatt's character, I was like, God, I love this guy. He's great. But
His banter was spot
Oh,
on.
yes.
perfection.
And
I love it.
he did such a genuine, like you could tell he really liked people in general, or at least faked it really well, but I think he just really likes people and characters. And like Ethel, the innkeeper slash Broadway star slash maybe she also ran the bookshop or like knew the people at like five,
Is
six, seven, eight, nine, or whatever the bookshop was called. Like eh, he very obviously very much liked her. The old man Rodney, who loves trains, like he was so
Yeah.
respectful and cordial to like listen to him and talk to him about trains. And like I think he just appreciates people. And so he is, as much as it like may seem calculated, like I think he genuinely is like an extrovert, like one of those genuine people. Like I guess he's not real, so it doesn't really matter, I suppose. Like he's a kid
Yeah.
with a story,
he's a
but he was
unicorn.
written in a way that made me feel like he was not a bad calculated guy, like although everything was pretty calculated, that like he did genuinely care, and a lot
Yeah.
of that came through in the number of times that he offered Aubrey like just kidding, just have this land. And he was generous with his money.
Yeah. I think he could read people really well because there's a scene when they first move in together and he just like sees how closed off she is. And she's like scared about them moving in and like they have these like this back and forth where she's like asking questions and he's like really quick with his answers, like I'll put the toilet seat down and all this stuff. And they have to share a bed and he's like, you need to calm down, I'm gonna do something and you just need to accept it. And he literally starts like
Spooning, force spooning.
spooning her and like her being her like rigid, like you can't touch me, and like I have this giant brick wall in front of me that no one can pass through, like enjoys it and is able to like fall asleep.
It's
And
such an extrovert move.
yeah.
Okay, what did you think about him, having to sleep closest to the door, so obsessive about locking the door? I feel like there was more there, but then like I never got anything.
Oh, you
Just a
didn't
bad dream when he was
It
12.
was a bad dream. It wasn't real.
Okay, that scene, I literally laughed for 5 minutes straight. I thought that was the funniest thing.
The explanation was he starts off by telling her that like
she was
someone
like,
broke into the house and
Yeah, his dad was not there. His
himself.
mom was, it was just he and his mom.
Yeah. And then he just completely wets himself in the hallway,
but
just
not even
looking
like
at this guy.
not even a little pee. He just like straight up like a river pees, and I'm literally laughing my head.
And then it was all a dream. Why are you neurotic? I must know.
But the best part is he's telling this story like it actually happened, and she's looking at him, and he's like, "Okay, actually, it was a dream, and I wet my pants."
But I was 12 when I peed my pants, so
I literally like had to like put down my Kindle for 5 minutes, and I just laughed because it was so funny to me.
no, it was an excellent part.
Oh, I loved it.
So.
And I do think like, look, I suppose if I am sleeping with someone new and I knew maybe when I was 12, and so I just, it was hard to go to bed. Like if you ever somewhere like you don't have a toothbrush or something, like, yeah, no, this is my habit and I can't not sleep without it.
Yeah.
So I gotta lock the door. I gotta check the door or something.
Yeah. TJ's very like, if we're like laying in bed, I'm like, did you lock the door?
He's got to get up.
He has to go out. He's like, I hate you.
Dan will ask me sometimes, did we close the garage? And we have the app. So I'm like, just on my phone. Yep, garage is closed.
That's funny. I woke up not this morning, but yesterday morning, and our front door was unlocked. And I was like, whoops. Apparently we are not like Wyatt. But Brian does always make me sleep farther from the door.
Like at hotel rooms and
yeah.
We have set sides of the bed.
Yeah, I'm trying to think.
TJ
has to be closest to the bathroom because he like pees a million times in the middle of the night. That's good. He's gonna come back.
My favorite TJ life advice: never pass up an opportunity to pee.
Yeah, exactly. So
I will say, we've switched sides of the bed.
Whoa.
I know, that's crazy. So when we first moved into our old house, I was super pregnant. And so I was closer to the bathroom. Like, nope, I'm getting up a million times. But that side of the bed we called the tundra because the air conditioning was just on that side. It blew hard and it was so cold. And I am definitely the person like in the summertime, no matter year round, I'm wearing fuzzy socks and pajamas to bed. And I could like long sleeve, long pant pajamas most of the time with the fuzzy socks, even if it's summertime. And I was like still so cold. I'm like, this doesn't like I shouldn't have to. And it's not like we're keeping the house at even like 68, like 73, guys. Like this is a very reasonable temperature. And I've got like I'm under the quilt, long sleeve, long pants. I've got an extra blanket. I'm like, this is stupid. So we switched sides. And it made a big difference.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to think. I think we're on the same side now here in this house. But I don't know for certain. It was just that's the side closer to the door, so that's Brian's side.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, and it wasn't until reading this part of the book that I was like, oh, and he was so chivalrous about it. I can't even say the word, but it was cute. Yeah. And then this was also the part where he makes the new rule: every night they have to do good night kisses.
Yes,
which progressed rather quickly into more things.
It did. The like I don't want to say non-consensual because it wasn't non-consensual, but like the forced cuddling and forced kissing were I think the worst things that Wyatt did. Now it helped move the story along and like I understand its purpose totally, but I didn't love it. I don't know.
I didn't mind it. Like the cuddling, I could tell he could tell I think that she was traumatized by something. And he was just like, and he set up while he was doing it, like, if you hate this, tell me to stop. Like, I won't do this, but I just.
Are you guys cuddlers?
No.
Nope.
Okay, I am not either, but Brian will sometimes like I will be frustrated. I'll have had a rough day at work or something, and he'll be like, "Do you need a hug?" Actually, I don't need anybody to hug me right now.
Don't
That would
touch
be
me.
really great if I could just have space, or like if I, could lay in bed and just stick my hand out and just if we could just hold pinkies, that would be plenty. That would be the most ideal form of cuddling for me. And so I was like, oh my God, I cannot imagine like this basic stranger, like, and then it's
Cuddling. I mean,
spooning,
yeah.
so I can't see your face. Even like granted, like face to face cuddling would be a lot,
Yeah.
but like I don't
It
know.
is. Well, like as someone married and my husband knows, like, you might not be allowed to touch me sometimes because I'm gonna shove you off me.
Yeah.
So TJ and I have cuddled one time. Okay. So
In how many years, Steph?
okay. So we are staying at his cousin's house and it's middle of winter. And she was like, "Hey, do you want me to put the heat on?" And he was like, she had this little like fireplace. And he was like, "No, like I run hot." And I was like, "Okay, so that's good." And I'm there shivering, and I know TJ was cold because out of nowhere he just like comes and we just like cuddle together.
It was to stay alive.
Stay alive. And so it was funny because the next morning I'm telling his cousin this story, and she was like, "Hey, Steph, if you want, I don't have to turn on the heat tomorrow night either."
Actually, turn the heat on.
I was like, it was freezing. I was shivering.
Oh, I would have been miserable. That sounds awful.
That's so funny.
So then we progress into the end of summer jubilee, which it sounds like a lot of fun.
I couldn't read this part. I couldn't.
It was a little much. So this was when Wyatt had planned to propose in front of the town because he thought if it was a public proposal, then his cousin wouldn't have much to stand on to contest their marriage. So he had Ethel help.
Oh my gosh.
Ethel happens to be a former Broadway star. So think drama. And he gets there and he's like, "What's going on? There's like people dressed as flowers. There's a fucking train.
A flash
over
mob.
there."
It was a flash mob.
It was a flash mob. And Wyatt ends up coming in on a little kiddie train that Rodney is driving. And you get the 6'3" man huddled in this tiny little thing. And as
He gets stuck.
he gets stuck. Like his shoe is still on the thing as Rodney's driving away. And Ethel's like, "Where are your shoes? This won't do."
He like falls flat on his face.
Oh my gosh, the poor man. And then he proposes, and then like they're both like he's on his
She
knee.
like handshakes
He
him.
stands up, she goes down, and like they keep doing the awkward, like one's going down, one's going up. She basically handshakes his nipple.
I literally could not read this part because I knew Aubrey would hate this.
It's just
And I was like, oh
So I
my
think in her defense, because it was also so embarrassing for Wyatt, was why she wasn't pissed.
yeah.
yeah.
She was a little miffed, but
The best part was when they're finally alone, she was like, "What were you thinking?"
Yeah. And he's like, I wasn't thinking that.
it's like this was not the plan. She was just supposed to sing a song, and that was it.
I did
but
like
when they
that
go back
she
into
sang
the
At Last, which one, that was our wedding song, but also At Last after a week, 3 weeks,
Right.
however long it's been.
I think it was like a week.
Yeah. It was
But then
not
they
very
go back-
long.
They go back into the bed and breakfast, and they run into Amanda
Oh yes.
again.
And she said some really awful
Oh my
things.
gosh.
Oh my gosh, this was when she was so awful. She drew on the former abuse by the dad and
Yeah.
Basically echoed those words that were her worst fear, that you're not worth anything. It was so awful, and Wyatt came to her
Defend her.
defense, which
She was shocked that he would defend her.
She
I
asked
felt
him, like the stuff
I
that
felt
you
bad on
said
behalf
to
of her
me.
siblings
Yeah.
who, like, there was definite stories of
Yeah.
them defending her, but Matt sucked ish. I don't know.
He just
like
stood there.
and
Yeah.
was like
Yeah.
eating canapes.
That
Yeah.
was what made me realize that, like, maybe Matt's just like not a stand-up guy and Amanda has trapped him.
Yeah. It was so sad though, because when they're finally alone, Aubrey and Wyatt, Aubrey like turns to him like, "Did you really mean that stuff that you said about me?" And he's like, "Of course I did." And I
Right.
understand because he's a big storyteller and like he tells so many stories throughout this book that we can't like tell them all. And but she's like so sad. And he was like, all of that stuff was true. You are really strong and you have been through a lot and you
Yes.
do so much. And so I was like, "Aw, Wyatt."
You're a good
Yeah.
guy.
I know. He likes her.
He does.
Yeah.
He won't admit it yet.
Nope.
So then the wedding planning gets hijacked by Ethel and Hattie's friend Maggie.
Who was a separate book.
Yes. But then they all go to the burlesque club.
So it was funny because I kind of want to go to a burlesque club after
Right?
reading about this burlesque club.
It sounds so fun.
I know. I was like, this would be so much
Well,
fun.
we don't have one here. So Amity, we need you to find one there and we'll just come for a visit.
Let's do
The
it.
couches, like they were on these couches, they had drinks, the food was amazing.
I
I
gotta
was
say
like,
those potato wedges or whatever they were. They
Yeah.
sounded great.
Potato skins. Yes. I love
Yes.
potato skins. They're gluten-free.
wow. So Aubrey just starts like drinking a bunch.
Oh, they are just hammered.
She's just,
As you should be at a burlesque club.
Yeah.
Exactly. And I think she's scared. She's not scared, but she's nervous because she knows that they do audience. They
Yes.
include the
Participation.
participation.
So she's like, if that's happening, I have to be just
hammered.
yes.
I would
You
be in the
scared?
Same.
Yeah, I'm not driving. So then they play the Simon Says game with like couples edition, and it gets a little
aggressive.
spicy.
Yeah. The spicy is a good one.
And she doesn't realize that they didn't say Simon before a particularly
Oh, I couldn't.
basically they said to do a lap dance, but Simon didn't say, so she's the only one doing it, and they get kicked out. And Wyatt like abruptly gets up and has to go to the bathroom, and she thinks he's mad. He's not mad. So things happen in the bathroom.
And they, while during this burlesque show, they like share so many details about like their sexual lives and what they like
yes.
and what they don't like, and when she uses a vibrator when he goes for his runs.
What he does in the shower.
What he does in the shower, yeah. But don't worry, he cleans up after himself.
Absolutely.
Yeah. We'll squirt of soap, everything's good as new. I will say I don't, as much fun as the burlesque club sounds, I don't know that I'd be drunk enough to do that in a bathroom.
No.
And like that does not sound clean. Like you guys are living together. Like, just go home.
Bed back home.
Also, like her sister just thinks that she like ran after him to the bathroom. Like it's not a little obvious after
I know, they
giving
were
him a
gone
lap
for a
dance.
while.
Yeah.
They both come back happy,
Yeah.
like messed up hair.
Like her lipstick is mysteriously gone.
Right.
Just saying. So this is at the point where Wyatt starts admitting he has feelings, but he's like, I can't think about this because should I be marrying someone and risk his heart getting broken? So then he kind of drops that thought process and
Yep. He goes for a run and he knows what that means.
yes. So then he comes back after his run. Well, because he comes back because he forgot his phone and he finds Aubrey with her vibrator. And then is this the super spicy beginning?
Yes. This is like the first one of the spicy scenes.
Yeah.
There are multiple.
There are a lot of them. But then like after their spicy scene, they decide that they can't cross that line anymore and that like this was like a one-time thing.
Get it out of our systems because that always works.
Right?
Yes. So Wyatt talks to his best friend Laurel about like how she like straight up says like, have you told her about what's her name? Cadence. And he's like, no, like I don't feel like there's a need to. And she was like, I really think you should. And he's like, no, I'm good. I'm a man. I don't need to talk about my feelings in the past.
He was like, I don't know that she could handle that.
Yeah.
Which was crap logic.
Yep.
Yeah.
But there was some logic there.
But Laurel tells him he has two chances: a chance to test his willpower and not touch Aubrey anymore, or to chance his heart and fall in love. She's very wise.
Yes, I do like Laurel. She was a good
Mhm.
character.
Yes.
So then they progress, and then there's a wedding meeting at Hattie's house. And um, when you knew that, what's her name, was
Maggie?
help
Oh, Ethel.
Maggie,
Ethel, thank
Ethel.
you. And you're like, this is going to get out of hand real quick
Oh,
after
yeah.
that proposal. And they go, well, we need 150 people. And Aubrey just like loses it. And like, no, we're eloping. Finally, she agrees to 50 people.
Yeah.
I was like, and they're going to do it at the barn.
They did it at the barn. She's gonna wear her sister's wedding dress, the
Which
one that
is
is so sad.
So
yeah.
sweet. I also wanted more information on why Cassidy, the sister, wasn't actually in love.
I know. Like,
Oh yeah, that was so random.
So her Cassidy wasn't actually in love with Wyatt's
Clark.
brother. They don't tell us why. It's like they got pregnant, got married, and she was
And we don't know what happened to Wyatt's brother either.
And I
No.
wasn't sure if Wyatt knew that Cassidy wasn't in love with Clark.
I don't
And
think so.
Wyatt wasn't close with his brother either.
Right.
Yeah. But Cassidy died of breast cancer.
Yes.
So
Wyatt finds Aubrey in her office, like talking to her computer, which I can relate to on so many levels. And she's like really frustrated. And he's like, can I help? And she's like, no, I don't need any help. Like brick wall. And so he's like, why don't we go to lunch? And if you want to talk to me, you can. Otherwise, we'll just go to lunch.
bring your computer. You can work while we're there.
So she finally lets it out that like she doesn't realize the farm and everything is under financially and what's going on. And he's like, let's look at a few things. And they figure out, and he figures out that they're listing the almond extract for $2 instead of $12
Online.
And that's where all her financial issues are.
$10 at a time.
Fixed. Yeah.
Yep, there it is. So then they start like making out and
In public.
Yep. Hattie and Hayes show up, and Hattie like gives her, they have like this sister talk, and Hattie tells Aubrey, she's like, you are like a big part of this farm. You're the reason why everything, like we can help you. You don't need to do this all on your own. And then Aubrey starts crying, and she finally is like, slowly the bricks are coming down, and she tells her good friend Echo, who works at the bees at the farm, that she's falling for Wyatt and that she starts having these feelings. But Echo's like, why don't you talk to him? She's like, no, I can't.
No, but I really appreciated in Aubrey's character growth in this part, and she had the part where she talked about, I'm realizing that what my dad did in sucking was he didn't ask for help in raising us kids. He didn't get help in maybe he had I don't think he had the farm. But he didn't get help. And so by trying to impress him by doing it all myself, I'm being just as bad as him, which like is not just as bad as him. But I liked that she equated that like he was a jerk and didn't ask for help. Instead, he was overwhelmed and went to drinking and being abusive as a father instead of like, hey, village, can you help me raise these 3 kids? And so she's like, so that I don't become a total dick, I'll ask for help too.
Yeah.
I appreciated the way she articulated that really nicely. And it felt like great character growth.
And she really comes out of her shell.
Yes.
She like really comes out of her shell. She's, sharing things, asking for help. She's telling Echo about her feelings. Hasn't told Wyatt yet, but then Wyatt surprises her with this whole new farm website, writes their story.
Like beautifully. Imagine the professional author like writing this is our farm story.
Right. With beautiful professional photos and everything.
And she like starts crying, and she makes the comment that she feels like Cassidy, like there was a reason why they left 50% of the farm to him and all that.
I kind of wish, I know I'm jumping ahead, that like they had left a letter, like you guys are meant to be together. Like, I don't know.
Right. Like that they found buried under the special oak tree or something. Yes.
I would have loved something like that to happen.
But it doesn't happen. But they do continue with the signs, and it comes up to the wedding, and Laurel comes into town, and Wyatt's like, I like her. And she's like, awesome. Are you nervous about tomorrow? Like you're getting married, and like we've done this before kind of recently.
Yeah.
And everything goes fine and they get married and it sounds really beautiful. And like at the last minute, the whole thing's last minute, but Wyatt plans a little mini honeymoon to the
Yep.
cabin. And so they move the wedding to a brunch wedding so they can leave that night straight away, get to the honeymoon.
Good bluff
And
next time.
they get to the cabin, and the cabin is in a different small town, a mountain town called Canoodle. And Canoodle's super cute. I read towards the very beginning of being in Canoodle, you are introduced to a character named
Fallon, like
Fallon.
Jimmy Fallon.
That's
Yeah.
how I'm saying it. Fallon and her husband Sawyer, and they have their own book, Runaway Groomsmen, about Canoodle and that small town. And that was a great book. I read that, I don't know, a while ago, some summer or something. But that was a fun book, and I really enjoyed that book as well. Although I'm a fan of this author in general. But so they have their own book. If you're following along and you read this book and you think Canoodle sounds like a fun place to read about, you can. And Fallon helps advance the story because she's like, "Oh, is this the famous Cadence?" And Wyatt's like, "No, not her. This is someone else, of course." And it, to be fair to Aubrey, he also is like, "Is this so and so?" And she's like, "No, this is somebody else. And I have a whole child at this point too." So it's obviously been some time since these two people have seen each other.
Yeah.
So, in as Wyatt's like, "Oh, she's just some ex I knew a long time ago. Fallon had one too. It was fine. See, everything, this is totally normal." I do understand how Aubrey would be like, "Okay, that's fine. Like, let's let it be."
Yeah.
And so they get to the cabin, which, unlike their guest house, has more than one bedroom. And Wyatt's like, "Well, where would you like to sleep, ever the gentleman?" And she's like, "Well, I guess not in your bed because you're even asking the question." And then they're both bummed and sad. And then Aubrey takes what she wants. I love it. And she's like, "Do you just mind if I hop right in this bed?" And he's like, "Yes." And then he's like, "Wait, because you like me. I like you. This is great." And then things are great for a while.
Yeah, they have a lot of spice. I think it's like 3 chapters of
Yeah.
like
They finally admit their feelings for each other.
yes.
No plot,
Um,
just spice.
no, just spice for like 3 whole chapters.
Yes.
Yeah,
All-
spice, a dinner at the troll place, spice.
Yep.
A little more spice.
Spice
then
at
they-
the troll, like dinner, spicy dinner.
And then leaving cabin, more spice.
Yes. Spice everywhere.
Yeah, lots of
Then
spice.
back to town, and like Ryland's planning to move closer to town because he's a teacher and he's driving really far, and he talks about how being in the house may be traumatic for Mac because this is where she watched her mom die. And so then there's a plan for Aubrey and Wyatt to move into the farmhouse and make it their own.
And now
then-
they're like fully into it too. Like they're not even
Yeah.
faking. They are committed to dating each other now that they're married. And they're enjoying it. And things are, going so well. But of course, there's, we're like 85% or whatever. And
Yeah. It gets to like this is where it's like 85, and I was like, okay,
okay.
where is it happening?
maybe it was like 92. I think it was a little
it was
further
well
along.
into the 90s.
Yes. I was like, when is it gonna explode?
And then it explodes. Third act breakup. Cadence and Wallace show up.
I don't know why Cadence showed up.
Right?
I never
Why?
understood
because
that.
Wallace is terrible, and
I know. At first, I thought maybe Wallace and Cadence were together,
together. Thank
Yes.
you. So did I.
but I didn't get that vibe.
No. And then Cadence says some really like terrible things, like directed at Aubrey. I'm like, you don't even know her.
Yeah, it was the whole situation was strange to me.
Yes.
Yeah,
I
and-
understand Wallace's position, but then like
But like Cadence, she said that. So when she initially broke up with Wyatt, she said, "I don't love you." And then she comes back and says she broke up with him because she didn't think she knew him, and like he evaded questions, isn't truthful about his past. And Aubrey's like, wait a minute.
yeah, it sounds
Same thing.
familiar.
Yeah. Aubrey thinks she's Wyatt is still in love with Cadence because of how angry he gets in the situation. So she just like skedaddles. She leaves. Wyatt tries to stop her. He can't, and Aubrey goes and finds Hattie at the almond store.
Yeah, and she's like crying, and Hattie's texting her brother, and then Aubrey tells her siblings all the truth. And then Wyatt shows up and gets punched in the nose.
He tells Ryland, just punch me. I love her so much. I deserve this for hurting her. Just punch me. And Ryland's like, okay, and does it. And
then Aubrey does Aubrey leave?
Yes, she goes to her guest house.
Yes.
And she like has made it clear, I will stay in this marriage because I want the farm, but that is all it will be. You know, we are coexisting and that is it. And she leaves and she doesn't give Wyatt a chance to even speak.
And what I was kind of confused might not be the right word, but my sister in her 1-bedroom guest house has said, I'm not going to be involved with this man anymore. And I'm Ryland with this multi-bedroom house 20 minutes away. And I'm like, he should still probably stay in that guest house.
Yeah.
Yeah. But then Ryland, Hattie, and Wyatt all sit down and he tells them like his point of view and they're like, all right, fine, we'll help you.
Yeah, we understand where you're coming from. And so Aubrey goes to bed. She's very angry and she's like, night 1, only 300 nights left. And then starts Wyatt's nightly confessions where he confesses to Aubrey different things about his life and and every story or thing that he tells her, he ends with, I love you.
Is this like 3 nights in a row?
3 nights in a row.
She doesn't take very long to wear down.
No, I wish she had held out a little longer.
Right.
And then she forgives him and everything's happy.
Ryland buys the house in town. Aubrey and Wyatt are planning to renovate the farmhouse, and that's kind of where we end.
Yeah, until the next book, which
it's got to be Ryland, and I'm kind of excited for that book.
Yes.
Yeah, I will read it.
And
the next book is Maggie and Brody.
Yeah.
But I feel like Ryland's story's coming.
I hope so. I felt like Ryland and Echo are just waiting to have their story.
Yes.
Or a new character, Echo and somebody else, and then Ryland and somebody else. Like, we can spend some time in Almond Bay. But I felt like their stories were there.
I also didn't know if Echo would swing Ryland's way. I wasn't quite sure how that. I don't know.
Oh, maybe an Echo and Laurel?
Oh, I got a vibe.
No, Laurel moves with her girlfriend, though.
Yes.
Sure, but for now, Wyatt was the day before marrying Cadence, and
6 weeks later, he's engaged.
There you go. And married a week later. So, favorite characters?
Wyatt.
Yeah. I did like Wyatt. I did get
first 2 pages.
The first 2 pages annoyed me. The beginning story Wyatt. And the whole thing about not telling her about Cadence, like that really annoyed me. Like, just tell her, like, she's an open book to you.
But she did, because she was very under the radar, funny.
Yeah.
Quick-witted.
I like their banter. That's what it is.
Yes,
I think I didn't have really a favorite character. The banter between the 2 of them, if that was a character.
Just perfection. Again, loved it.
So during one of their dates, Wyatt asks Aubrey this question. So I got to ask you guys, which food would you make out with? So I already have mine. Mine would definitely be chips and guac.
I can see that.
I love chips and guac. I think I would make out with chips.
I feel like it'd
be
chip and dip you love.
Yes.
I would say vanilla cupcakes.
Ooh.
I'm having such a hard time choosing, but I'm gonna go with cheese curds from Culver's.
Ooh.
I do miss those.
Do they not have Culver's there?
They're just not gluten-free.
Oh, damn, I'm sorry.
It's okay. They're good.
I can smash an entire family size, so.
I do miss fresh cheese curds. Like, they just don't have them down here. Like, when they're so fresh, they're squeaky.
Yes.
Oh, man. Yeah. So that was one of the questions that Wyatt asks Aubrey, and hers was mac and cheese.
It is
Specifically
good.
the mac and cheese that they ended up having at their wedding from Cliff's,
Yes.
which did sound very good.
It did.
All the food in this book sounded really good.
Pie and bear claws and just
yeah, I like
pizza,
the potato skins, the dipping, even the Hawaiian burger I would have eaten.
Okay.
I was snacking so much while I was reading this book. I was like, I'm just so hungry because they keep talking about different foods.
There were a lot of tropes in this book.
Oh,
so
yes.
many. So like left at the altar, marriage of convenience, small town, reverse grumpy sunshine, black cat, golden retriever, forced proximity, one bed, like abuse. There's so many.
Yeah, it hit a lot.
All of them.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, overall impression, what is it out of 10?
I like this book. This was really enjoyable. I'm giving it an 8.
You're gonna do that. I'm gonna go with an 8.
Okay, I'm gonna be difficult to do 7.5.
You gotta math that then.
Yeah, let me pull it out. I liked it. It did take me a little bit to get into it. But
7.83.
oh, perfect. That's a good rating.
It is a great rating.
So, looking ahead, our next book is going to be called Off the Hook by Julia Olivia. And so
I think I've read one of her other books and really enjoyed it. Don't remember which one it was.
I don't think I've read a book from this author. So I like the cover.
I think I have read a book by this author.
No, but I can't remember which one it was.
But this one is a series.
Is it?
One. Yep. Book 2 is called Out with the Tide.
Oh, so we're finally reading we have read one of the first books of a series.
But now we're reading this one. The hard part when we read a book from a series is that if I really like it, I need to stop before we record. But usually there's like a time difference and then I've moved on to something else. And I am a serial series reader. Like if I get into a series, I read them all in a row and I don't bounce back and forth unless I can't because like the book isn't out yet. And once I've moved on, I've kind of just moved on.
Have you ever done this where like a series is almost done? Last book coming out maybe in a couple months. Will you just wait to read the entire series until after that last book is out?
I don't know, because what if I don't like it?
Yeah.
True.
The only issue when book series don't have the whole thing is I always forget about them.
Yeah.
And then like they come out like 3 months later and it's like Kindle will remind you like you've started this series. And I was like, oh, I did start that series. I forgot that I did.
I mean, we've also forgotten books we've read.
The whole entire books that we've read.
Yeah.
I think all 3 of us have done that.
Yeah. I will say the fantasy genre, those series stick with me better. And I think a lot of that is just you have to figure out the world building and everything.
Yeah.
And so those ones, I mean, I'm like Zodiac Academy, you guys.
Speaking of fantasy, what do we think of the new cover for Onyx Storm?
I was gonna say that's a series I think I'm gonna have to reread.
Oh, I cannot wait to reread before the next book comes out.
That was so my sister currently got a trail and she has already listened to all our episodes, so now she's listening to books. And I was like, Fourth Wing, you should listen.
It's so great.
But it's like $18. And I was like, is it
worth it?
I know. I kind of want to just like Venmo her $18.
She has 400 miles to hike.
I know.
Steph.
Wouldn't that be great though to like listen to Fourth Wing while hiking in the mountains?
She needs it.
I know. I kind of want to just like Venmo her $18 and be like, hey, I'm a good big sister. You're gonna love this series.
Come join the.
And so also this next book is our last summer read.
I know.
I'm so excited for fall though. The night of 4th of July, I dreamed about fall leaves that night.
I can't believe that it's the summer. It's already the middle of July. Like I don't get it.
I know, it's so crazy. It like blinks.
Yes.
But yeah, Amity is going to be has fall leaves changing.
I'm so excited.
We will still be in the hot, humid heat.
Send us pictures.
Yes.
Of me and my cute sweaters and my fall leaves.
Yeah, your cute little boots and
your pumpkin spice that you can actually drink.
All right, well, that's going to do it for today's episode of reading and fantasizing about cooler weather in the fall. Thanks for listening to our reviews, rants, and ramblings. Remember, if you also read this book and you review it on Amazon or Goodreads, please include that Shmindle Shmumlimited sent to you. And if you wouldn't mind a quick review on your podcast platform of our show, we would be forever grateful. Have a great couple weeks, and we can't wait to read, review, rant, and ramble about the next book with you. Bye.